He closed his eyes, and when they opened once more, his gaze had already locked onto the direction of Fang Chen's escape. Immediately, he hoisted up the Star Abyss Great Venerable and gave chase in a flash. The Star Abyss Great Venerable pondered secretly, this should salvage some of my dignity after being tricked this time, right? I should have been more profound, my voice lowered further, to truly exude an inscrutable aura. Still, it should be enough to make the people of the Hunyuan province revere my strategic prowess. Hunyuan province. The crowd erupted in waves of shouts. Someone yelled, "Wang Chengxiao, go for it, you must return." Another chimed in, "Capture the giant king alive and bring him back, to bring glory to our central plains." "Run faster." Suddenly someone exclaimed in alarm that the Star Abyss Great Venerable seems to have woken up. A person nearby said impatiently, "Ah, quiet, he's already captured, what's there to see? Better watch Wang Chengxi, a win honor for our central plains." The heavenly realm. The people of Hunyuan province, following Fang Chen's line of sight, rode a thunder dragon across the sky. At this moment, he suddenly sensed the blood within his body uncontrollably seeping out from his pores. His eyes involuntarily narrowed. The 5-star giant king has arrived. He decisively pulled out the mirror, sealing the Violet Princess, using a misty demonic liquid to stick it to his hand, lest it be snatched away through the air. Then, gripping the mirror tightly with 5 fingers, he turned and coldly shouted, "If you want her dead, try moving against me again." As soon as the words left his mouth, the out-of-control blood within him returned to normal. A dull thud echoed from above his head. A giant king, its body surging with dim golden light and 5 crimson stars upon its forehead, arrived treading upon a blood-colored rainbow. The sky curtain cracked under its steps, leaving behind a spiderweb of fine, black fissures. At a glance, the sky was filled with cracks, as if the entire firmament had been shattered beneath its feet. A massive vertical eye, exuding supreme majesty, coldly fixed its gaze upon Fang Chen. A single glance plunged Fang Chen into an icy abyss, his heart pounding wildly. This was his second time facing the 5-star giant king directly. The impact did not lessen despite his cultivation having risen to the 6th nascent soul stage. On the contrary, he could feel the terror of the 5-star giant king even more keenly. Fang Chen took a deep breath and was about to speak to negotiate. But the 5-star giant king narrowed its eyes and said in a deep voice, "Why is it you?" Fang Chen was puzzled in his heart. Does the 5-star giant king recognize the mask on his face? That shouldn't be. He had hooked this mask with a void fishing rod in an alley within Hunyuan province. How could a 5-star giant king from the heavenly realm recognize it? Wait, could this be an item used by some traitor colluding with the heavenly realm? It's hard to say if there are traitors in Hunyuan province, but the Taking Great Province definitely has them. It was precisely because of traitorous betrayal that 2 reconnaissance missions were discovered in advance by the ancient giants. Could the owner of this mask also be a traitor? The 5-star giant king narrowed its eyes and said, "What game are you playing? Killing my ancient giants, capturing the Violet Princess, and now wanting to exchange for the Star Abyss Great Venerable. If you don't give me an explanation, I'll expose your disgraceful deeds across the Central Plains, leaving you no place to hide there." Fang Chen's heart shook. This tone was clearly speaking to one of its own. The mask's owner was indeed colluding with the ancient giants. Fury blazed in Fang Chen's heart as he cursed inwardly, a traitorous scum who bites the hand that feeds. Yet his face betrayed nothing. His eyes shifted, and he followed the other's lead. "A great enemy from the Central Plains seeks my death. To protect myself, I had no choice but to save the Star Abyss Great Venerable's life, making him my protective talisman. Today's desperate act, putting on a show for the people of Hunyuan province, killing your ancient giants, threatening you. It was all a last resort." The 5-star giant king flared with rage. "But did you have to be so ruthless? Considering your loyalty, I'll let the matter of the military camp slide for now. Release the Violet Princess. She absolutely cannot be taken back to the Central Plains by you." Fang Chen's gaze shifted. "What about the Star Abyss Great Venerable? If I don't save him, this trip will have been for nothing, and I'll surely be killed by that great enemy upon my return." The 5-star giant king snorted. "For such a trivial matter, you actually destroyed my entire military camp. And captured the Violet Princess. I truly question your intelligence. A mere great enemy, you could have just asked for my help. Why go through all this trouble?" It took out a piece of white bone and pressed it against its forehead. The 5 crimson stars spun violently, leaving 5 dim star imprints upon the bone. It casually tossed the bone over. Take it. When you encounter an enemy, activate my origin power within. Any human at the fourfold heavenly tribulation stage or below will perish. Fang Chen caught the bone from a distance and stored it in his spatial artifact, his heart pounding fiercely. So, this bone actually has the power to annihilate those at the fourfold heavenly tribulation. By impersonating that traitor, he had unexpectedly gained a great weapon. The 5-star giant king snorted angrily. Aren't you going to release the Violet Princess? If she suffers even the slightest harm, I will grind your bones to dust. Fang Chen hesitated. Hand her over, and any hope of rescuing the star Abyss Great Venerable would vanish. But if he didn't, he would have to openly break with the 5-star giant king right now. Whoosh! A blurry shadow coalesced beside the 5-star giant king. It was the Immaculate Great Venerable. In his hand, he held the star Abyss Great Venerable, whose 5 senses had been sealed once more. Seeing the star Abyss Great Venerable still alive, Fang Chen breathed a sigh of relief. His greatest fear was that all his efforts would be for naught, only to learn that the star Abyss Great Venerable had already fallen in battle. Fortunately, the other side had spared his life. Fang Chen had already guessed part of the reason behind this. The Immaculate Great Venerable scrutinized Fang Chen and the 5-star giant king, his eyes filled with doubt. Blood Devourer, what is the situation now? The atmosphere between you two should be one of drawn swords and taut bows. The 5-star giant king snorted, a farce caused by this fool. The Immaculate Great Venerable looked suspiciously at Fang Chen. You're not going to say this guy is that person, are you? Fang Chen listened, his heart burning with anxiety. Why don't you just say the traitor's name out loud, in front of all the warriors of Hunyuan province? The 5-star giant king nodded. It's him. Not long ago, we even made a deal. Now he's in trouble and wants to sell the star Abyss Great Venerable a huge favor in exchange for protection. The star Abyss Great Venerable cannot be taken back by him. I've already given him a treasure. The Immaculate Great Venerable stared at Fang Chen, his eyes gradually narrowing. He had never seen that traitor before. He had only heard that in the Central Plains there was such a figure with far-reaching influence. Though his strength wasn't top tier, his abilities were extremely formidable. He could manage to obtain any material or intelligence the heavenly realm required. Since the heaven connecting black pillar linked the two realms, he had provided the heavenly realm with much highly valuable intelligence. Even the giant emperor held him in high regard. He was considered, besides himself, the person most favored by the giant emperor. Yet, why did he feel something was off? If this person truly wanted to exchange for the star Abyss Great Venerable, the intelligence about the 9 phoenixes facing the Dao hairpin would have been enough. Why go to the extra trouble of storming the military camp, slaughtering and capturing the Violet Princess? No matter how he looked at it, it seemed more like revenge against the ancient giants. The Immaculate Great Venerable asked solemnly, Blood Devourer, have you ever seen that person's true face? The 5-star giant king shook its head slightly. No, but I heard the giant emperor mention that his true appearance matches the age of the mask. The Immaculate Great Venerable's expression changed, his eyes suddenly turning sharp. You've been deceived. The person before you, beneath the mask, is a youth. The 5-star giant king might not be able to see it, but as a Central Plains cultivator at the 5-fold heavenly tribulation stage, he had long since seen through the mask with a spell. Beneath that mask was not a middle-aged man at all, but a youth. The 5-star giant king was greatly shocked. What? The 5 stars on its forehead spun rapidly as it carefully sensed Fang Chen's lifeblood aura. A moment later, the massive vertical eye brimmed with furious killing intent. His blood indeed does not carry the scent of a middle-aged man. You little wretch, you dare deceive this king. Seeing his identity exposed, Fang Chen shed all pretense. He gripped the mirror tightly and even pressed the white bone against its surface, aiming it at the Violet Princess, making as if to activate it. Fang Chen coldly shouted, Immaculate Great Venerable, you've come just in time. Choose for yourself, mutual destruction or peaceful coexistence. The Immaculate Great Venerable laughed in extreme anger. Well, well, well. The Central Plains truly produces talent. A mere nascent soul realm ant dares come to the heavenly realm to challenge this venerable one and the 5-star giant king. Who gave you the gall? Initially, he had merely thought Fang Chen was an annoyingly cautious junior, not taking him seriously at heart. He never expected that the other would dare threaten him. Fang Chen tightened his grip on the mirror, declaring, "It's precisely because you're a coward who clings to life and fears death that you dare not let the Violet Princess die. If she perishes, you'll be buried alongside her." If the Immaculate Venerable would rather watch the Violet Princess die than exchange hostages, the Asura Emperor would never spare him. And the Immaculate Venerable was, unfortunately, a man who feared death. Therefore, Fang Chen gambled that he absolutely would not dare to stand idly by and watch the Violet Princess meet her end. The Immaculate Venerable's eyes darkened with gloom. It was true, he clung to life and feared death, and he had indeed committed acts of betrayal against the Central Lands. But he did not enjoy having it exposed to his face. The Immaculate Venerable's voice turned icy as he said, "Young man, you are treading on dangerous ground." Fang Chen snorted. "Since I chose to stay, I have already prepared myself for death. But before I die, I will certainly drag the Violet Princess down with me." "And you and the 5-star Giant King will soon join me as well." The Immaculate Venerable, holding the Star Abyss Venerable's hand, clenched his fist tightly. Killing intent swirled in his eyes. The two sides stood deadlocked for a moment, neither daring to make a rash move, until a series of asterisk thump, thump asterisk sounds came from the mirror. It was the Violet Princess, sensing the perilous atmosphere, pounding on the mirror's surface to alert the Immaculate Venerable and the 5-star Giant King. Through the mirror, her words were unclear. But by reading her lips, the two discerned her meaning. Asterisk agreed to his terms. Asterisk. The Immaculate Venerable was filled with unwillingness. To trap the Star Abyss Venerable, he had laid plans for a full month, even going so far as to expose his own presence. And now he had to return the Star Abyss Venerable. Wouldn't all his efforts have been in vain? Yet, with the Violet Princess herself giving the order, how could he dare to disobey? The 5-star Giant King dared not defy the command either. The two exchanged a glance and gave slight, almost imperceptible nods. The Immaculate Venerable's gaze shifted slightly as he said, "Junior, we release the hostages simultaneously, no tricks from either side." Fang Chen, gripping the mirror tightly, let out a breathy laugh. "Immaculate Venerable, do you think I'm young and easy to fool? Exchange hostages here and now. After the exchange, do you think I, with the Star Abyss Venerable in tow, could escape the pursuit of two pinnacle experts like yourselves? The moment I release the Violet Princess would likely be the moment you join forces to slay me. Ah, and let's not forget her herself. Her desire to kill me is no weaker than yours." The Immaculate Venerable gritted his teeth, clearly displeased at having his thoughts exposed. He said darkly, "Then how do you propose we exchange?" A glint flashed in Fang Chen's eyes. "We exchange at the entrance of the heaven, touching Black Pillar." The Immaculate Venerable and the 5-star Giant King glanced at each other, offering no objection. This proposal was within their expectations. The Immaculate Venerable flicked his sleeve, and a surging wave of devilish Kai lifted the three of them. He said coldly, "Let's go." Maintaining their confrontational stance, both sides flew together towards the heaven, touching Black Pillar. Before long, the group arrived beneath the Black Pillar. Fang Chen's peripheral vision swept the area, and his heart couldn't help but jolt in alarm. Beside the heaven, touching Black Pillar, were gathered at least 10 Giant Kings. One of them even had 4 stars rotating on his forehead. To intercept intruders, the other side had truly gone all out. Fortunately, most of them bore injuries, and the aura of that force, Star Giant King, was noticeably weakened, likely from having just engaged in a fierce battle with Venerable Lion J. Observing their fearful and uneasy expressions when facing the 5-star Giant King, Fang Chen's anxious heart finally settled. Venerable Lion Jing must have successfully escaped. The little Kirin and Venerable Zai Zio. Now only the hostage exchange remained. He wasn't too worried about that 5-star Giant King. Once back in the heaven, touching Black Pillar Passage, the other's massive frame would find it difficult to chase inside. But the Immaculate Venerable could. That was the greatest threat. The Immaculate Venerable, carrying the group, landed beside the Black Pillar. He showed no concern about Fang Chen jumping into the passage to flee, for he indeed could briefly descend to the lower realm. He said indifferently, "We're here." "It's time for the exchange." A flicker passed through Fang Chen's eyes. "You release your hostage first. After we retreat into the heaven, touching Black Pillar, we'll release your princess." The 5-star Giant King's vertical eye glared, spreading intimidating killing intent. Thin black cracks spread from the space before him to surround Fang Chen. He roared angrily, "No tricks. We must release them simultaneously." The surrounding Giant Kings, hearing this, immediately blocked the entrance to the heaven, touching Black Pillar. The Immaculate Venerable also narrowed his eyes, gripping the Star Abyss Venerable's divine halo tightly. He said grimly, allowing you to return to the vicinity of the Black Pillar, for the trade is already an act of mercy. Do you still dare to haggle? The two venerables exerted pressure simultaneously, their terrifying auras intertwined, crashing down like a torrential flood. Fang Chen, caught within it, nearly lost his footing. It seemed just as he had anticipated. They would never easily let the Star Abyss Venerable go. He gripped the mirror tightly, looking at the Violet Princess within. She also wore a grave expression, nervously watching the outside. If negotiations broke down, Fang Chen would certainly ensure mutual destruction. At that very moment, their gazes met. A voice transmission from Fang Chen echoed in the Violet Princess's mind. Princess, this stalemate is meaningless. If we delay further, and the Immaculate Venerable acts impulsively, it will be disadvantageous for both of us. The Violet Princess snorted within the mirror. If you break your word and abduct me back to the Central Lands, wouldn't I be fooled again? Fang Chen transmitted back. Then are you planning to die together? I am but a minor cultivator from the Central Lands. Although the Star Abyss Venerable is noble, he likely doesn't carry the same weight as you, a princess. If we perish together, by any calculation, we come out ahead. The Violet Princess gritted her massive teeth, her eyes rolling thoughtfully. The stalemate was indeed pointless. After a moment of contemplation, she transmitted, allowing you to return to the heaven. Touching Black Pillar first is acceptable, but the hostages must be exchanged simultaneously. Fang Chen thought for a moment, then transmitted, no problem, but I demand the Immaculate Venerable leave this place. He can charge into the Black Pillar at any moment, ending my life in an instant. With him here, I cannot be at ease. The Violet Princess stared at Fang Chen and snorted. You are more cunning than the slyest prey in the celestial realm. Fang Chen shrugged, transmitting, if I weren't cautious, how could I have captured a noble princess like you? The two reached a consensus. Fang Chen loosened his grip on the mirror slightly, allowing the princess's voice to transmit out. The Violet Princess declared clearly, clear the entrance, let him enter first. The 5-star Giant King's expression changed, and he said urgently, Princess, what if he? The Violet Princess raised a hand to stop him, saying calmly, no need to worry. The Star Abyss Venerable is still in your hands. Only then did the 5-star Giant King reluctantly wave his hand, ordering the giants to clear the passage entrance. Fang Chen retreated cautiously until half his body was submerged in the dark passage of the heaven, touching Black Pillar, only his shoulders and head remaining visible. If anything changed, he could immediately withdraw. The Violet Princess said, now, can we exchange the hostages? But Fang Chen kept his gaze fixed on the Immaculate Venerable. His expression was calm, his eyes devoid of any ripple, clearly unconcerned about Fang Chen's escape. His intent was obvious. The moment the hostages were exchanged, he would strike with thunderous force. Fang Chen immediately said, make the Immaculate Venerable leave. The Violet Princess's expression changed slightly. The reason she dared to let Fang Chen retreat into the Black Pillar was first, that the Star Abyss Venerable was still under control, and second, that the Immaculate Venerable served as a backup plan. Now, asking the Venerable to leave, how could that be acceptable? To her surprise, the Immaculate Venerable actually pondered and said, fine. I shall depart first. He turned to Fang Chen, warning indifferently, Wang Chengxi, oh, if you dare harm the princess, do not think that fleeing into the heaven, touching Black Pillar, or even fleeing back to the Central Lands, will save you. This Venerable will hunt you down and take your wretched life. Fang Chen inwardly rejoiced, but on the surface, he said, go far away. Don't hide somewhere I can't see. The Immaculate Venerable said impassively, rest assured, I never speak falsely. He retrieved a red wishful, filling talisman from the Star Abyss Venerable, and said, I swear by Th. A law of words manifested to depart 80,000 lie from this place. Will that put you at ease? A sharp gleam appeared in Fang Chen's eyes. Good, please leave immediately. The Immaculate Venerable gave Fang Chen a deep look, handed the Star Abyss Venerable over to the 5-star Giant King, and then activated the wishful, filling talisman. Instantly, his already aged body appeared even more withered. He had actually used his vitality as the price to activate the treasure. He chanted in a low voice, I depart 80,000 lie. Asterisk whoosh, asterisk, his figure vanished into thin air. Sensing his aura completely recede into the distance, Fang Chen felt slightly relieved. The greatest threat was gone. A flicker passed through his eyes as he retrieved a half-piece storage artifact shaped like a Taiji Yin Yong fish, precisely the one he had obtained from Shu Buxu. This object's sole function was to swap positions. Fang Chen took out the young fish and placed the mirror, imprisoning the Violet Princess inside it. The Violet Princess said warily from within the mirror, "What are you doing?" Fang Chen said, "You are a giant king, proficient in the Tao of Time. How could I dare to let you out of my control? What if during the exchange you break your shackles and unleash the power of time? Wouldn't I be in grave danger?" The Violet Princess gritted her teeth. This damned scoundrel was cunning to this extent. She had indeed considered that once the mirror left his hand, she could have the 5-star Giant King shatter the confinement from a distance and capture Fang Chen in turn. But the other's caution and prudence left her almost despairing. Fang Chen said calmly, "Bear with it. There's no air inside the storage artifact. You'll feel slightly uncomfortable. It will be over soon." Ignoring the Violet Princess's venomous glare, he dropped the mirror into the young fish. Then he looked towards the 5-star Giant King and shouted, "We both throw the hostages out at the same time. No cheating. Otherwise may you, bloodthirsty Giant King, bear sons without anuses, and may I, Wang Chengxiao, be struck by 5 thunderbolts from the heavens." The 5-star Giant King's eyes flickered. He said solemnly, "Good, I'll count to 3, and we act together. 1, 2, 3. The 5-star Giant King hurled the Star Abyss Venerable with all his might. Fang Chen also threw the young fish towards the opposite side. Asterisk whoosh, asterisk. The 5-star Giant King teleported forward, snatching the young fish. His anxious heart finally settled. The princess had finally returned. The colossal calamity was finally averted. Now it was time to settle accounts with this human runt, burning camps, killing subordinates, abducting the princess, repeatedly threatening. He glanced sidelong at the Star Abyss Venerable, flying through the air towards the black pillar, and grinned coldly. "Fool! The Star Abyss Venerable, whom we captured with great effort. Did you think we'd let you rescue him right before our eyes? Wishful thinking." His eyes widened, and a gaze solidified into substance shot towards the Star Abyss Venerable like sharp arrows, intending to blast him back. However, just before his gaze made contact, a spatial rift suddenly tore open before the Star Abyss Venerable. A phantom fishing hook emerged, accurately hooking onto his body and yanking him fiercely into the void. The 5-star Giant King was greatly alarmed and roared furiously, "How dare you!" That terrifying gaze struck the Star Abyss Venerable, but failed to blast him away. The pulling force of the fishing hook was irresistible. The Star Abyss Venerable's figure only paused slightly before instantly vanishing into the void. When he reappeared, he was already before Fang Chen. No, the 5-star Giant King erupted in rage, his gaze sweeping fiercely towards the entrance of the heaven, touching black pillar. Fang Chen had long since withdrawn deep into the passage. Holding the Star Abyss Venerable, whose 5 senses were sealed with one hand, he wore a smile and waved at the 5-star Giant King. "Farewell." With that, his figure rapidly sank into the endless darkness below. "You stop right there." The 5-star Giant King flew into a thunderous rage. He watched helplessly as Fang Chen rescued the Star Abyss Venerable. His meticulously planned scheme of over a month had turned to bubbles, and he had also lost over 20 giants. Shame and fury intertwined. He, a 5-star Giant King, had been played for a fool by a mere nascent Soul Realm human. To his surprise, Fang Chen actually stopped upon hearing the roar. Turning around, he spread his palm, revealing a yin fish spatial storage artifact. He said leisurely, "Oh, right, there's one more thing I forgot to take." The 5-star Giant King stared at the object, whose color was the complete opposite of the young fish in his hand, and his heart gave a violent jolt. Before he could react, the young fish spatial storage artifact in his palm, containing the Violet Princess, inexplicably transformed into a yin fish, while the young fish had already appeared in Fang Chen's hand. The 5-star Giant King's pupils contracted sharply. Only then did he realize he had been deceived. Fang Chen had never intended to release the Violet Princess. He roared, "Human, release the princess at once." Fang Chen gleefully cradled the young fish, smiling. "I'll take your princess for a little visit to our central lands. Don't worry, she'll be back soon. Farewell." "No," the 5-star Giant King cried out in panic. "Release the princess. I'll give you anything you want. I promise when the war between the 2 realms begins, I will absolutely not kill you. I'll give you the best resources of the celestial realm." "Don't go." But Fang Chen had already scurried out of sight. The 5-star Giant King staggered a step, his vision darkening. He muttered, the Violet Princess captured and taken to the central lands. He felt as if the heavens had collapsed, not daring to imagine how furious the Giant Emperor would be upon learning this. What to do? What to do? The 5-star Giant King murmured, then abruptly noticed the yin fish spatial storage artifact was still in his palm. A thought stirred. This is a pair of spatial storage artifacts that can swap positions, right? Then I can also swap back the storage artifact containing the princess, can't I? A sliver of hope surged within him. Seizing the last vestiges of spatial power still lingering on the yin fish, he immediately activated it. Whoosh! In the next instant, the yin fish vanished, replaced by the yang fish. The 5-star giant king was overjoyed, roaring with laughter. You little bastard, even you can be careless. He hurriedly activated the yang fish, lest Fang Chen swap them back again. But who could have guessed? The spatial storage device held not the violet princess, but a gushing eruption of nebulous demonic liquid. The 5-star giant king instinctively teleported away to dodge, but the nebulous demonic liquid wasn't aimed at him. Instead, it splashed over the entrance of the heaven, piercing black pillar, sealing it completely. Thus, even if the Immaculate Great Venerable returned, she would have to spend time clearing the demonic liquid before pursuing Fang Chen. Seizing this opportunity, Fang Chen had long since reached the central plains. Realizing he had been fooled again, the 5-star giant king flew into a rage. Glaring around, he bellowed, "Immaculate! Where the hell have you died off to? If the Immaculate Great Venerable were here, how could Fang Chen be so brazen?" The plazas of the various sects in the primordial Chaos continent were so silent you could hear a pin drop. Until someone was the first to speak up, reminding everyone, friendly reminder, you can breathe now. Only then came the sound of long, drawn-out sighs of relief, rising and falling like waves. T2, too thrilling, I didn't even dare to breathe. Facing both the Immaculate Great Venerable and the 5-star Giant King simultaneously, Wang Chengxi actually managed to rescue the Star Abyss Great Venerable and bring back the Violet Princess. How did he remain so composed before two such monstrous beings? It's more than composure. He completely played them like fiddles. Especially that yin-yang fish tricking the 5-star Giant King one after another. Who could have imagined that? Wang Chengxi's feat on this trip is practically god-tier. Venturing deep into the royal court with that Fang Chen from the Taikang continent, it could be written into the history books of the Central Plains. I'm already a fervent fangirl of Wang Chengxi. I'm a fanboy. I'm a fangirl senior to you. In the courtyard of the Sea of Texts Academy, the Venerable True Word stared unblinkingly at the projection and sighed, truly breathtaking. Storming the military camp, slaying giants, capturing the princess, exchanging hostages, outwitting the 5-star Giant King. Under heaven, you couldn't find a second person capable of such deeds. Inside the heaven, piercing black pillar, listening to the howling wind by his ears, Fang Chen finally let the tension in his heart ease. He let out a long, turbid breath and muttered to himself, "That was truly perilous. Almost lost my life for 3 wish papers. What a loss." Thinking of this, he took out the yin fish, his heart aching even more. Another treasure gone. Must make up for it. He pulled a mirror from his sleeve, gazed at the Violet Princess within, and began to ponder, who should I sell you to, the time origin? Surely many great figures would be interested. How about a special auction just for you? The highest bidder wins. The Violet Princess looked around in confusion. Her surroundings were filled with azure, black astral winds, a barrier condensed from countless wind origins, separating the central plains from the heavenly realm. At the center of the passage was a pitch black, perfectly straight pillar of light. Her pupils suddenly contracted. Instantly realizing where she was, she gasped sharply, "Why? You're taking me back to the central plains? Did the exchange fail?" But then she noticed Fang Chen was still carrying the Star Abyss Great Venerable. Fang Chen smiled slightly and said, "The hostage exchange was a complete success, but I couldn't bear to part with you, so I snatched you back. Come along quietly to the Central Plains as my guest, Violet Princess." Hiss. The Violet Princess drew a sharp breath. The 5-star Giant King had actually let her be captured again. How was it possible? That was the 5-star Giant King. No matter how heaven-defying Fang Chen's methods were, he couldn't possibly snatch her back right under his nose. Yet the fact remained. Darkness swam before her eyes, and her heart sank like a stone. The daughter of the giant emperor, falling into the hands of the Central Plains. What fate awaited her needed no explanation. However, a voice, aged and indifferent, reached Fang Chen's ears, quite resourceful, to snatch the princess back from Blood Devourer's grasp. That voice belonged to the Immaculate Great Venerable. But hadn't she teleported 80,000 miles away? Why was she inside the heaven, piercing black pillar? Wait, could it be she hadn't teleported elsewhere in the heavenly realm, but rather into the heaven, piercing black pillar itself? Fang Chen looked down at his feet. A figure of an elderly woman wreathed in demonic energy was leisurely ascending from below. Who else could it be but the Immaculate Great Venerable? The Immaculate Great Venerable, hands clasped behind her back, arrived before Fang Chen and said in a tone tinged with amusement, "Didn't expect me to be waiting for you inside heaven-piercing black pillar, did you?" The spatial passage was only 4 zhang wide, leaving Fang Chen no room to retreat. He could only face this former great sage at close quarters. Fang Chen took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Senior, you too were once a great sage of the Central Plains. Why aid the wicked? A calamity greater than a millennium ago now looms over the Central Plains. If you were to return, you would be welcomed by all." Though hope was slim, Fang Chen still wanted to try persuasion. The Immaculate Great Venerable smiled faintly. "I, too, have traversed the 5 decays of heaven and man to reach the great sage realm. Do you know what that signifies?" It signified that the Immaculate Great Venerable had once been a person of great virtue and prestige, deeply beloved by all living beings. Only thus could she have accumulated enough merit to ascend to the great sage realm. A flicker of nostalgia passed through the Immaculate Great Venerable's eyes as she slowly said, "I, too, once loved the Central Plains as you do. For in that homeland were those I loved and those who loved me. There were those I silently protected, and those whose gentle presence accompanied my years. I, too, believed I would protect it forever." Her voice grew softer, carrying a trace of desolation, but as I walked on, I was left alone. As a sage, I have a lifespan of over 1,000 years, but those I loved did not. Those who loved me did not. The Immaculate Great Venerable looked at Fang Chen and asked, "Can you understand? Emerging from a century of seclusion, only to find your most beloved junior brother lying in a small mound overgrown with withered grass. To know that the one who once loved you deeply now slumbers eternally with regret. Time is the most merciless blade in this world. It cruelly severs all bonds, leaving you in eternal solitude." Her gaze grew distant, as if piercing through time itself. I bid farewell to friend after friend, watched beauties turn to bleached bones, saw the bright-eyed youths who once admired me and vowed to become like me grow old and die. They all left, leaving behind only cold tombstones carved with names, reminding me that they were once here. The Immaculate Great Venerable looked directly at Fang Chen, her voice calm yet heavy. "So tell me, what remains in the Central Plains that is worth my protection?" Fang Chen was stunned. Eternal life was a dream pursued by countless souls since ancient times, yet it was also a curse. Those who live forever must walk alone. Some, like the Heaven's Eye Sage, can hold fast to themselves in solitude, still fighting for their beliefs. Others, like the Immaculate Great Venerable, lose themselves. Fang Chen said gravely, "Senior Immaculate, if you no longer wish to protect the Central Plains, this junior will not force you, nor blame you. But could you at least remain neutral and refrain from aiding the wicked?" The Immaculate Great Venerable said indifferently, "The ancient giants can grant me eternal life. What can the Central Plains give me? Having witnessed life and death, joy and sorrow, having tasted the heartlessness of time and the cruelty of the years, I too have grown afraid. I fear that one day, time's blade will finally catch up to me and stuff me into a tiny mound of earth. So I must move forward, step by step, towards eternal life. No longer fearing time, no longer being a slave to the years." Having said this, her gaze shifted to Fang Chen, her tone turning cold. "Abandon any hope. Hand over the 9 phoenixes paying homage to the Tao hairpin, and return the Star Abyss Great Venerable and the Violet Princess. Out of a trace of sentiment for the shadow of my former self I see in you. I will spare your life." Perhaps this rare moment of reminiscence, stirring long, forgotten memories deep within, had softened her killing intent for now. It made her icy heart soften ever so slightly. Fang Chen sighed inwardly. The Immaculate Great Venerable was dead set on serving the ancient giants, pursuing that elusive promise of eternal life to escape death. But did true eternal life exist in this world? Birth, aging, sickness, and death were natural laws, and nature was the Tao itself. Could the ancient giants truly break the shackles of the heavenly Tao and bestow eternal life? Probably not. If they could, the ancient sages of the Central Plains should have been able to do so as well. Yet throughout all eternity, had anyone in the Central Plains achieved immortality? They still followed the natural principle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. A true immortal had never been born. It was just that the Immaculate Great Venerable had already been defeated by the fear of death. She was fanatically obsessed with that illusory eternal life, and nothing could awaken her now. The Immaculate Great Venerable said flatly, "Hand them over." Fang Chen snapped back to reality and nodded respectfully. Since senior commands, this junior dares not disobey. His hand, hidden behind his back, stealthily reached into his sleeve and grasped the broken bone of the 5-star Giant King. But the Immaculate Great Venerable seemed to see through everything. She said calmly, "I could kill you 10 times over before you activate the Blood Devourer Giant King's origin. Do not waste the little mercy I have left." Fang Chen's expression changed slightly. Before such a powerful being, and at such close range, none of his movements could escape her notice. Helpless, he could only lower his hand, revealing the mirror in his palm. The Violet Princess stared coldly at Fang Chen, a mocking smile playing on her lips. "You humans have a saying, if the mountain won't move, the water will flow around it. I never thought the tables would turn between us so quickly." Just moments ago, the Violet Princess was the lamb to the slaughter. Now, it was Fang Chen's turn. Fang Chen said awkwardly, "Violet Princess, would you believe me if I said I just wanted to invite you to the Central Plains for a friendly exchange?" The Violet Princess clenched her fist and slammed it against the mirror's surface, furious. "Exchange? Weren't you just planning how to sell me for the highest price? Trafficking the daughter of the Giant Emperor, only you in the entire Central Plains would dare. Let me out. I promise I won't tear you to shreds." The Immaculate Great Venerable also stared at Fang Chen, extending her hand. "Give it to me," she said coldly. Fang Chen was helpless. Facing an existence of this level, he had no room for resistance. He could only first toss the Star Abyss Great Venerable to her. Then he handed over the mirror, saying, "If the Star Abyss Great Venerable recovers, I won't be afraid of you." The Immaculate Great Venerable caught the Star Abyss Great Venerable and couldn't help but smile slightly. "In the end, you still return to my hands." Then, she reached out to take the mirror Fang Chen offered. The Violet Princess glared venomously at Fang Chen, wishing she could emerge immediately and tear him to pieces. At that very moment, a flash of sharp light suddenly gleamed in the eyes of the Star Abyss Great Venerable, who was supposed to be sealed in the 5 senses seal. Without any warning, he struck out, landing a palm strike squarely on the Immaculate Great Venerable's body at close range. Thump! A dull, explosive sound. This sudden attack caught the Immaculate Great Venerable completely off guard. A palm-shaped bloody hole was instantly blasted through her chest. The Immaculate Great Venerable was sent flying backward, crashing into the astral winds of the wind origin barrier. Just as she was about to be shredded by the astral winds, the demonic energy behind her erupted violently, forming a massive thrust that forcibly pushed her back from the winds. Even so, her back was left a bloody, mangled mess by the astral winds, the wounds deep enough to reveal bone. She was a great venerable who had undergone the 5 decays of heaven and man. Yet, in the span of a breath, even she had been injured to this extent by the astral winds. But she had no time to assess her injuries. Instead, she stared in shock at the Star Abyss Great Venerable, who had regained his mobility, and asked incredulously, "How did you break the seal?" In the Star Abyss Great Venerable's severely wounded state, it was impossible for him to break it on his own. Unless Fang Chen had helped, but Fang Chen clearly hadn't done anything just now. "Wait!" She suddenly remembered Fang Chen's muttered words, "If only the Star Abyss Great Venerable recovered." Immediately, she glared at him coldly and said sharply, "You used a wish paper." Fang Chen hid behind the Star Abyss Great Venerable, flicking his sleeve. Beneath the white bones of the 5-star Giant King, a wish paper that had burned to ash drifted out. So what Fang Chen intended to activate was not the origin power of the 5-star Giant King. It was the wish paper pressed beneath the bones. The origin power of the 5-star Giant King was only useful for those at the 4 heavenly witherings stage and below. Even if activated, what could it do? Moreover, trying to activate it in the presence of the Immaculate Great Venerable was no different from a fool's dream. The only way to break the deadlock was to restore the Star Abyss Great Venerable's mobility. Coincidentally, he had a wish paper that the Violet Firmament Venerable had given him before leaving. It was already filled with the aura of the righteous path and could be activated at any time. Therefore, while Fang Chen appeared to be touching the bones, he was actually activating the wish paper. He concealed his wish within their dialogue, accomplishing it without anyone noticing, thus secretly undoing the Star Abyss Great Venerable's seal. Seeing the ashes of the wish paper, the Immaculate Great Venerable clutched the wound on her chest, her face darkening as she uttered 3 times in succession, "Good, good, good." To undo the Star Abyss Great Venerable's seal right under my nose, Wang Chengxiao, I truly underestimated you. Fang Chen snorted, "Immaculate Great Venerable, you are also injured. Neither side is in good shape now. Why don't we go our separate ways, each following our own great Tao? We return to the central plains, and you go to your heavenly realm. How about it? The Immaculate Great Venerable's eyes turned icy as she declared resolutely, wishful thinking. Even injured, killing the two of you is more than enough. Her injury was only on the physical level, not particularly severe. The Star Abyss Great Venerable, however, had exhausted his aura of the righteous path, and his domain could hardly be activated much. If a real fight broke out, the outcome was self-evident. The Star Abyss Great Venerable's expression darkened slightly as he said to Fang Chen, "Kid, you go down first. I'll hold her off for a while." Having failed to push the Immaculate Great Venerable into the astral winds earlier, they had already lost their best chance to oppose her. He was already deeply grateful that Fang Chen had gone this far for him. He could not drag Fang Chen down any further. But Fang Chen urgently said, "Senior, just block one of her attacks." He had expended so much effort to bring the Star Abyss Great Venerable out of the heavenly realm. How could he give up now? It seemed he had no choice but to make one final attempt. The Immaculate Great Venerable had already made her move. From a distance of 4 zhang, her first strike was a close, range-killing technique. The Star Abyss Great Venerable could only resist with all his might, while also preventing the shockwaves from their clash from sweeping over Fang Chen. Fang Chen dared not delay. He took out a chain, tied one end around his waist, and wrapped the other end around the heaven, connecting Black Pillar. Just as he finished wrapping it, the Star Abyss Great Venerable's divine halo began to hum and vibrate, on the verge of shattering. The Immaculate Great Venerable had actually decided to kill, no longer thinking of taking them alive. Seeing this, Fang Chen's face changed dramatically. He teleported forward in a spatial flash, grabbed the Star Abyss Great Venerable's shoulder, and flew sideways. The heaven, connecting Black Pillar, tied to him, moved along with him. Also moving with them was the 4 zhang safe space surrounding the heaven, connecting Black Pillar. Thus, the Immaculate Great Venerable was suddenly plunged into the astral winds. The terrifying astral winds swept through everything, utterly devastating her. Her body disintegrated rapidly like sand, and even her soul was being eroded by the winds. How could she have imagined that Wang Chengxie was actually the legendary Central Plains native capable of moving the heaven, connecting Black Pillar? The Immaculate Great Venerable roared furiously, Wang Chengxie. She decisively erupted with powerful demonic energy, forcibly tearing herself free from the astral winds and returning to the range of the heaven, connecting Black Pillar. Fang Chen's expression changed as he urgently said, "Star Abyss Great Venerable, it's up to you." The Star Abyss Great Venerable, having now reacted, glanced at Fang Chen in surprise and said, "So it was you." He only knew that beneath Fang Chen's mask was a young face. But he did not know that the owner of this face was none other than Fang Chen from the Central Plains, whom he had sent people to invite, but failed to meet. Now, without Fang Chen's reminder, the Star Abyss Great Venerable knew what to do. He grabbed Fang Chen instead, using his remaining power to execute a rapid horizontal escape. Thus, the 4 zhang safe space moved along with them. The Immaculate Great Venerable was forced to follow their movements. However, as the Star Abyss Great Venerable dodged and weaved irregularly, the Immaculate Great Venerable could not keep up every time. And once she fell into the astral winds, she would suffer devastating damage. Time passed bit by bit. A full half-fin since time elapsed. The Immaculate Great Venerable's powerful demonic body had been scattered by the astral winds until only a skeletal frame remained. All her flesh and skin had been utterly blown away. Only a few vital organs remained, barely protected by demonic energy. Her soul had also suffered severe damage far from its peak state. Now, forget about eternal life. Even preserving her life would be difficult. Fang Chen secretly felt a surge of excitement. He knew the astral winds were formidable, but he never imagined they could be so powerful as to grind down even a 5 heavenly witherings cultivator. The Immaculate Great Venerable before him, barring any surprises, was about to become the first Great Venerable to be ground to death alive within the astral winds. However, the Star Abyss Great Venerable's escape speed gradually began to slow. He was finding it difficult to shake off the Immaculate Great Venerable's pursuit. Relying on a sliver of remaining strength to contend with her until now was already an extraordinary feat. He grabbed Fang Chen and rapidly descended, striving to reach the Central Plains as soon as possible. Once they reached the Central Plains, they would be safe. The Immaculate Great Venerable would never dare to set foot in the Central Plains lightly. Within the Immaculate Great Venerable's skull, the flames of her soul flickered violently. 2 tongues of soul fire shot from her eye sockets as she let out a hysterical, venomous shriek. Wang Chunxio, you ruined my Tao body. You deserve death. With her demonic body destroyed, not only was eternal life out of reach, but even completely fusing with the remains of the Crimson Demon Great Venerable had become impossible. What she could not accept was that all of this was bestowed upon her by a junior like Wang Chunxio. She, a dignified 5 heavenly witherings cultivator, a former sage, had been reduced to this state by a mere nobody. She no longer cared about the Star Abyss, Great Venerable, or the Violet Princess. Now she only wanted to kill Fang Chen. She dove rapidly, carrying her venomous killing intent, chasing after them like a flash and striking fiercely towards Fang Chen. Fang Chen looked down below, about to leave the astral wind region and soon see the land of the Central Plains. He couldn't help but feel a tightness in his heart. He dared not take a direct hit from an attack of this level. Although he had the protective inscription from the Heavenly Eye Sage, the Immaculate Great Venerable was once a sage herself. That inscription might not be effective against her. Even if it were effective, if she didn't kill Fang Chen, she could still grab him and throw him into the astral winds, couldn't she? At this critical moment of utmost peril, a mirror suddenly appeared, interposing itself between the Immaculate Great Venerable and Fang Chen. Caught off guard, the Immaculate Great Venerable was drawn into the mirror and was about to be teleported several hundred li away. A furious snort came from within the mirror, HMPH, a mere petty trick. The mirror instantly shattered. Sound effect, the grinding of bones, and the explosive crackle of energy. The Immaculate Great Venerable broke free. The soul fire in her eye sockets flickered violently as she glared fiercely downward. A figure clad in a black long dress shuddered violently, a large amount of blood spilling from the corner of her mouth. The divine halo above her head, already cracked, was now covered in a dense web of spider-like fissures. Venerable Lion Jing clenched her teeth, raised her hand to wipe the blood from her lips, and gazed solemnly at the skeletal frame. She thought with inner shock, is this really Venerable Immaculate? How could she have become like this? Fang Chen was taken aback and blurted out, Senior Lion Jing, why have you come? Without turning her head, Venerable Lion Jing replied with a hint of stubbornness in her voice, if the people of your Tai Kang Great Province can sacrifice themselves selflessly, how can we from Tian Province lag behind? I have arranged for someone to send your little beast to the Tai Kang Great Province. I apologize for returning late. Fang Chen was slightly taken aback. Knowing full well that ascending to the heavenly realm was a 9-death in 10 endeavor, this senior still chose to go, regardless of the cost. He expressed his heartfelt gratitude. Many thanks for your swift aid, Senior Lion Jing. Venerable Lion Jing, however, snorted coldly and thrust her hand out before Fang Chen. Fang Chen was taken aback. What is this for? Venerable Lion Jing's voice turned grave. If you truly wish to thank me, then use that detestable face of yours to slap my hand hard. Only then did Fang Chen realize that by repeatedly manipulating the heaven, connecting black pillars, his true identity had been exposed. Venerable Lion Jing had long since recognized that this Wang Chunxi, before her, was none other than Fang Chen. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became, her voice trembling. Ha! You so righteously claimed you didn't blame Fang Chen for impersonating your name, even spouting that if I don't enter hell, who will? Nonsense, and I actually believed you. She turned her head and shot Fang Chen a venomous glare, wishing she could strangle him to death. This scene was almost identical to when Fang Chen, with his face smeared in demonic mist, had tried to clear his own name. Yet she had been fooled once again. What shamed her most was that she had actually been moved by that line, if I don't enter hell, who will? In the end, it was merely Fang Chen clearing his own name. Fang Chen shrank his neck back and offered a sheepish smile. Sister Venerable, could you listen to my excuses one more time? Venerable Lion Jing trembled with rage, gritting her teeth as she roared, Go to hell. I swear, once we return to the Central Plains, if I don't wring your neck, I'll take your surname. Great Venerable Xing Yuan rubbed his nose, casting a sidelong glance at Fang Chen. Incredible, he had actually managed to break the defenses of a Venerable at the 4th Heavenly Decay. Sensing the tense atmosphere between the two, he cleared his throat. Lion Jing, let us focus on the present. Great Venerable Wugu is about to launch a desperate counterattack. Venerable Lion Jing suppressed her stray thoughts, her gaze turning solemn as she fixed it on Great Venerable Wugu. You too should retreat for now, she said gravely. The powerhouses of the Hunyuan continent should be on their way to reinforce us. Hold on a little longer, and you will be saved. At this moment, the entire Hunyuan continent was watching. Having successfully reached the heaven, connecting black pillars, and now in need of aid, the continent's powerhouses would naturally come to their assistance. Great Venerable Wu Gu clearly understood this as well. The longer she remained in the lower realm, the more precarious her situation became. "None of you shall leave," she shrieked, charging forward astride her skeletal frame. Great Venerable Xing Yuan gathered his energy and shot upward against the sky, clashing with her. A single exchange ensued. Shattered bone fragments sprayed, and bloody muck flew in all directions. Great Venerable Xing Yuan plummeted, blood spurting from his wounds, while cracks spiderwebbed across Great Venerable Wu Gu's skeletal body. However, Great Venerable Wu Gu's condition was clearly slightly better. Disregarding the risk of her body disintegrating, she flashed forward, her bone claw aimed straight for Great Venerable Xing Yuan's skull. A thought stirred within Fang Chen. He teleported through space, placing himself between the bone claw and Great Venerable Xing Yuan. A venomous, resentful shriek erupted from the depths of Great Venerable Wu Gu's soul. "You wretched little beast, you deserve death most of all." Cursing all the while, she thrust her bone claw toward Fang Chen's back, aiming for his heart. She intended to crush both him and Great Venerable Xing Yuan in one blow. *BZZET***. The sage's inscription within Fang Chen's body suddenly activated. Great Venerable Wu Gu's soul shuddered, and the bone claw aimed at Fang Chen abruptly froze. Shock and suspicion filled her, the inscription of Sage Tianmu. After all, Great Venerable Wu Gu had once been a sage herself. The inscription did not control her, merely slightly impeding her movements. But that momentary delay was enough. Venerable Lion Jing had foreseen this outcome the moment Fang Chen charged forward. She had already seized the perfect moment and unleashed a sword strike. Her supreme, grade spirit artifact, the serrated sword, cleaved through the void with a terrifying sword aura, slicing open a finger-thick line of absolute blackness. At that very instant, Great Venerable Wu Gu, affected by the sage's inscription, fell into a split second of rigidity. Unable to evade the line of void, blackness pierced through her skeletal body from head to toe. ****. The skeletal body was instantly split in two. Og, Great Venerable Wu Gu howled in agony, using the last dregs of her demonic energy to forcibly fuse the sundered halves of her skeleton back together. She had already performed soul possession once. This was her final life. Once this vessel was destroyed, her soul could not survive alone. It would dissipate into the heavens and earth along with the body. Yet the moment she stabilized her body, a sharp glint flashed in Great Venerable Xing Yuan's eyes. Seizing the opportunity, he launched a furious strike against Great Venerable Wu Gu's skeletal frame. ***boom***. A deafening explosion of shattering bone echoed. The skeleton could endure no more, instantly blasted into fragments. Only a single skull remained, sheltering Great Venerable Wu Gu's soul. The rest of her body had turned to dust. No, Great Venerable Wu Gu cried out in shock and fury. Reduced to just a skull, it was now impossible for her to reform a body, unless she entered the blood pool within the primordial heavenly chasm, and transformed into a primordial giant. This was the path she least desired, for it would erase herself, forever binding her as a primordial giant. Why had things come to this? Everything had been proceeding so smoothly. Ever since Fang Chen intervened, everything had been turned upside down. Yes, Fang Chen. It was all Fang Chen's fault. If not for him activating that sage's inscription at the last moment, she wouldn't have fallen prey to the successive ambushes by Venerable Lion Jing and Great Venerable Xing Yuan. Great Venerable Wu Gu let out a venomous roar. "I swear, on the day the primordial giants descend upon the central plains, I will be the first to slaughter you." With that, a lone skull, protecting her remnant soul, shot toward the heavenly realm. Transformation was her only remaining path. She had no other choice. But she vowed that after becoming a primordial giant, she would exact revenge upon Fang Chen's Tai Kang Great Continent tenfold, 100-fold. She would make him taste the bitter agony of watching every friend and family member die around him. Fang Chen's face turned cold. "You think you can escape? How could he dare let such an immensely dangerous entity flee?" Immediately, he flicked his sleeve, sending forth the already activated fragment of the blood, devouring Giant King's bone. The origin power within the bone fragment awakened, transforming into a colossal, blood-red hand of a primordial giant. It reached out and effortlessly seized Great Venerable Wugu's skull. A chill of terror ran down Great Venerable Wugu's spine. "Stop! Stop!" she screamed. The skull was the sole vessel for her soul. At this moment she cursed the blood, devouring giant king, that utter fool, to the depths of hell. To have been tricked by Fang Chen into surrendering such a dangerous source of origin power. But why would Fang Chen heed her pleas? His 5 fingers clenched, the crimson giant hand crushed the skull on the spot. Thus the remains of Great Venerable Hong Mo were utterly annihilated. Great Venerable Wu Gu's soul manifested, taking the form of a vicious-looking elderly woman. Her soul body resembled a sand sculpture in the wind, constantly dissipating. Large, crystalline fragments of her soul scattered like flakes of dandruff. She was fading away. Grinded to death and destruction by Fang Chen's relentless actions. Great Venerable Wu Gu's resentment shook the heavens. "Wang Qingxiao, I merely sought eternal life. What wrong have I committed? Yet you press me so relentlessly." Fang Chen replied coldly, "There is no wrong in seeking eternal life. No one would stop you, but do not build your eternity upon the sacrifice of the Central Plains. You are unworthy of immortality." Great Venerable Wu Gu clenched her fists tightly. She glared at Fang Chen with pure hatred. "Fine, I am unworthy of eternal life, only fit for hell. Is that it? Then you shall all accompany me to hell." She opened her mouth and spat. A perfectly round orb, radiating an aura of sacred purity and serene harmony, flew forth. Great Venerable Xing Yuan's pupils contracted sharply. Virtue merit. Within the remains of Great Venerable Hong Mo, there truly was virtue merit. However, it had long been collected by the Immaculate Great Venerable and hidden deep within her soul. He instantly guessed what the Immaculate Great Venerable was about to do. His face changed drastically as he shouted, "Run! She's going to use the merit to return to the Sage Realm." "What?" "Return to the Sage Realm. With just a remnant soul and a single merit divine pearl." Venerable Lion Jing felt her scalp go numb. Whether it was true or not, the Immaculate Great Venerable's final strike before death would be terrifying beyond measure. Without a second thought, she summoned a mirror, grabbed Fang Chen and Great Venerable Xing Yuan, and plunged into it. When they reappeared, they were already 500 li below, within another mirror. But this brought her no sense of security whatsoever. She did not hesitate to expend her domain power, continuing to summon mirror spaces for teleportation. Fang Chen's heart also pounded with fear, sensing a threat unlike any he had ever faced. He had personally witnessed the Celestial Ice Age before. Before such majestic heavenly might, any resistance was utterly futile. Annihilating them would be but a single thought. There was no doubt about it. Fang Chen urgently asked, "Great Venerable Xing Yuan, can the Immaculate Great Venerable's remnant soul truly reach the Sage Realm?" Great Venerable Xing Yuan's expression was grave. Yes, she was, after all, once a sage. With merit at her disposal, she can briefly force her remnant soul back into the Sage Realm before it dissipates completely. Although her soul will crumble faster under the strain, it will be more than enough to kill us. Fang Chen's heart sank like a stone. This is utterly unjust. The merit of the Central Plains actually being used by a traitor to kill the people of the Central Plains. What supreme irony. But there was nothing left that could stop the Immaculate Great Venerable now. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light erupted above them. Blazing radiance pierced through the cyan, black astral winds, illuminating the entire sky. An overwhelmingly majestic aura, soaring with terrifying speed, rolled forth like the wrath of heaven itself. The frenzied astral winds scattered and retreated before it. Fang Chen and the other two, who were in the midst of spatial teleportation, were violently ejected from the spatial tunnel. Bathed in that increasingly blinding golden light, all three felt as if their bodies were about to melt. The terrifying pressure descended upon them like a collapsing sky. Fang Chen felt that before this heavenly might, he was but an ant standing at the foot of Mount Tai. Not a single shred of thought to resist arose within him. Great Venerable Xing Yuan and Venerable Lion Jing were the same. Before such vast and overwhelming heavenly might, the nascent soul realm and the venerable realm seemed utterly indistinguishable. This was the might of a sage. The Immaculate Great Venerable had ultimately succeeded in returning to the Sage Realm. Though a vast distance separated them, for a sage, such a span meant nothing when it came to taking lives. From high in the sky came the Immaculate Great Venerable's icy, imperious voice. The Immaculate Great Venerable's voice thundered across the firmament. All of you shall be buried with this sage. Your bodies and names shall be utterly extinguished. Her words, imbued with the power of law, swept forth in a wave aimed directly at Fang Chen and the other two. Fang Chen's heart clenched. He recognized this technique. This was the law of a sage. Once a word is spoken, the laws of heaven and earth follow. It was true wordtle, a manifestation. Fang Chen's skin rapidly darkened, his blood and kai withered, and the energy within his body drained away. He was unmistakably marching towards decay and destruction. Great Venerable Xing Yuan and Venerable Lion Jing were not spared. The bodies of all three were decaying simultaneously. Great Venerable Xing Yuan let out a helpless sigh, his voice filled with bitterness. My life ends here. Venerable Lion Jing looked down at her own rapidly decaying flesh, a wry smile appearing on her face. Before the law of a sage, they couldn't even muster the thought to resist. Only Fang Chen felt a secret surge of joy in his heart. If it were any other offensive law, he would likely have had to accept his fate. But if the method was to kill him through bodily decay, he might not necessarily die. Because he still had the time's space dust left behind by his mother. Immediately, without drawing attention, he avoided the sightlines of Venerable Lion Jing and Great Venerable Xing Yuan, quickly grabbed a handful of time's space dust and placed it in his mouth. The moment his body felt the decay intensify, he swallowed one grain. His decaying body instantly restored itself to its original state. Confirming this method worked, Fang Chen immediately used exquisite spatial force to send 2 grains of time, space dust into the bodies of Venerable Lion Jing and Great Venerable Xing Yuan. Their bodies also rapidly recovered. Great Venerable Xing Yuan was startled. Young friend, what is this? He asked in confusion. Venerable Lion Jing was also astonished, hurriedly inspecting her own body. What did you put inside me? She had already prepared to face death with composure, yet Fang Chen had given her some heaven-defying treasure that could actually block a sage's law of decay. Fang Chen vaguely explained, it's a life-extending spiritual treasure I happened to obtain in the celestial realm. Hearing this, a flash of pleasant surprise appeared in Venerable Lion Jing's beautiful eyes. The celestial realm has such treasures. If that was the case, as long as they had enough of this substance, couldn't they simply endure through this law of decay? Overjoyed, her expression quickly shifted to concern as she looked at Fang Chen. But you gave some to us. Do you have enough for yourself? Fang Chen's mouth was still full of time, space dust, making his voice somewhat muffled. MHM, don't worry about me. It doesn't matter if I die. You two are the hope of the Central Plains. I won't allow you to die before my eyes. A shimmering light danced in Venerable Lion Jing's crystalline eyes, and an indescribable emotion welled up in her heart. This usually annoying fellow, at every critical juncture of life and death, always managed to do something that shook her to her core. Great Venerable Xing Yuan was also deeply moved. With emotion, he said, Fang Chen, such a great kindness. I don't even know how to repay you. Fang Chen had rescued him all the way from the celestial realm, and now he had saved his life from a sage strike. How could such a debt of gratitude ever be repaid? If he did not repay it, his Tao heart would be unsettled, his mind harboring a flaw. He feared he would never be able to step into the great sage realm in this lifetime. But if he were to repay it, he truly had no idea where to even begin. High in the sky, the Immaculate Great Venerable sensed their anomaly and let out a furious, shocked roar. Why aren't you dead yet? While secretly urging Venerable Lion Jing to quickly use her techniques to get them away, Fang Chen deliberately clutched his head and wailed loudly, Ayo, I'm getting old. The sage law is so powerful, I can't hold on much longer. Hearing this, Venerable Lion Jing couldn't help but let out a soft, involuntary laugh. In such a deadly situation, Fang Chen could still crack a joke. Yet her hands never stopped moving as she urgently activated her domain, enveloping the 3 of them for spatial travel. The Immaculate Great Venerable immediately realized she was being mocked and flew into a towering rage. She had expended her merit, accelerated her soul's dissipation, all to temporarily step into the great sage realm. And she still couldn't kill these 3. Instead, she was being ridiculed by that brat Fang Chen. The Immaculate Great Venerable's furious roar shook the heavens. You little bastard, you deserve to die. May you all be consumed by raging flames. She actually activated her sage law once more. An invisible, terrifying wave of power swept towards the 3 again. Fang Chen cried out in alarm again. Wasn't it said she could only briefly step into the great sage realm? She had already used her law once. How could she possibly use it a second time? How deep was this bitch's hatred for them? She was willing to drag them down with her, even as she faced her final destruction. Just as that lethal wave of law was about to completely engulf them. Suddenly, the entire sky shook violently. A vast surge of pure, ethereal energy ruthlessly pierced through the layer of violent astral winds. Carrying with it the clear, resonant voice of a youth, it shot upwards against the current, killing its way into the heavens. The youth's voice, laced with cold intent, rang out, "Enough is enough." The sheer power of this pure Kai actually scattered the majority of the onrushing sage's ripples. Even the cascading golden light of the sage was caught and forced to recoil. Immediately after, a piercing shriek tore through the heavens. The remnant soul of the Immaculate Great Venerable roared with unwillingness. "Great Libationer, do not meddle. I will kill Fang Chen. I must have him accompany me in death." That youth merely uttered a strand of icy indifference. "Dust to dust, earth to earth. Since you have come to the Central Plains, then be gone." The Immaculate Great Venerable unleashed a final, utterly wretched howl. "I am not willing. I had just glimpsed the hope of immortality, yet I must die at the hands of a junior. Why? SSS. A dull thud echoed. The soul of the Immaculate Great Venerable completely exploded. It transformed into a sky-filling deluge of golden spirit rain pouring down. Fang Chen was startled, attempting to use spatial techniques to evade the spirit rain. But within a space only 4 zhang wide, there was nowhere to hide. He was still drenched head on by the spirit rain. He had expected something terrible to happen. To his astonishment, however, after merging with his body, the spirit rain transformed into pure, refined energy. His soul power began to surge wildly. The nascent soul within his Danshan also throbbed faintly. It was spontaneously opening its 7th aperture. Looking at the star Abyss Great Venerable beside him, his originally depleted body, under the effect of the spirit rain, actually recovered its vitality with astonishing speed. The depleted Heoran Kai was also gradually restored within the nourishing spirit rain. Even the divine halo of the Compassionate Mirror Venerable, which had been on the verge of shattering, began to visibly mend. Fang Chen exclaimed in shock, "WH, what is happening?" The Star Abyss Great Venerable's face lit up with joy as he said excitedly, "I have heard that when a great sage realm powerhouse falls, they transform into spirit rain to nourish all living beings. The Immaculate Great Venerable's remnant soul entered the sage realm and perished at that level, thus fulfilling this condition." The Compassionate Mirror Venerable's beautiful eyes also shimmered with wonder as she added, "I have heard of this too. But I never imagined that one day I would also benefit from sage spirit rain. After all, the fall of a sage is a rare event seen once in a millennium. With the aid of this spirit rain, my domain can recover somewhat. Fang Chen stroked his chin, deep in thought. So, the Immaculate Great Venerable expended her merit, forcing her soul to disintegrate faster. But in the end, she actually ended up benefiting our Central Plains, benefiting the 3 of us. Hearing this, both the Star Abyss Great Venerable and the Compassionate Mirror Venerable were taken aback. The Star Abyss Great Venerable wore a strange expression as he looked towards the gradually calming heavens. In terms of the result, that is indeed the case. The Compassionate Mirror Venerable also looked peculiar, murmuring, "She toiled so hard to break into the sage realm, failed to kill us, and instead turned into spirit rain to nourish us. Thinking of it that way, she doesn't seem quite so hateful anymore." Fang Chen couldn't help but cup his hands towards the heavens and laugh heartily. "Immaculate Great Venerable, you are too courteous. We'll gratefully accept the spirit rain, but next time, you really mustn't go to such trouble, all right." Above in the heavens, the remnant soul of the Immaculate Great Venerable, on the verge of completely dispersing, learned that Fang Chen and the other 2 not only survived, but reaped immense benefits. Her spirit rain, it unleashed a final furious curse. "I curse you. To hell." As her remnant soul finally scattered completely, the cursing voice also abruptly ceased. Fang Chen shrugged, utterly unconcerned. "Whether I go to hell or not, I don't know, but you are certainly there now." Having said that, he immediately tilted his head back, striving to intercept as much of this hard-won sage spirit rain as possible. Soon, the sky-filling spirit rain dissipated entirely. To his delight, Fang Chen discovered that his nascent soul had, without him realizing, successfully opened its 7th aperture. His soul power had also surged to the level of a 9 aperture nascent soul. This sudden stroke of fortune caught him completely off guard. He had only recently broken through to the 6, aperture nascent soul, and in the blink of an eye, he had advanced again to the 7, aperture nascent soul. Moreover, under the miraculous effect of the spirit rain, any potential instability in his foundation from consecutive breakthroughs was quietly smoothed over. Recalling the various perils of this journey to the heavenly realm, he quickly calmed himself, thinking inwardly, such gains are indeed worthy of the life, and death struggles along the way. Looking again at the star abyss, Great Venerable. His depleted Heoran Kai had recovered by half, and his injured body was fully restored. There was still a little over a month before the descent of the ancient giants. If he could find a way to recover the other half of his Heoran Kai, he would have a better chance of weathering that impending calamity. As for the compassionate Mirror Venerable, the cracks on her divine halo had mostly vanished. Dealing with the impending heavenly human 5 decays should not pose a major problem. The three exchanged glances, all revealing smiles of relief after surviving a great disaster. This was truly a case of surviving a great calamity and then receiving unexpected fortune, a truly unforgettable encounter. The Star Abyss Great Venerable spoke up. Let's go. We must not let the powerhouses of the Central Plains worry for too long. Also, we need to go and pay our respects to the Great Libationer. Fang Chen deeply agreed. If not for the Great Libationer's final intervention, the three of them might not have escaped unscathed. This also piqued Fang Chen's curiosity. What level of cultivation did that Great Libationer from the primordial Chaos Prefecture possess? In her final moments, the Immaculate Great Venerable was at the Sage Realm, although it was a remnant soul entering the Sage Realm, and her power was certainly inferior to a true Sage's to shatter her remnant soul in a single blow. Sufficiently demonstrated the astonishing strength of the Great Libationer. Pondering this, he followed the other two as they descended. Suddenly, he noticed faint black smoke rising from the compassionate Mirror Venerable's body, and asked in surprise, "Venerable sister, why are you on fire?" The compassionate Mirror Venerable frowned delicately, looked at her own hands, and her pupils contracted slightly. Her body surface was indeed emitting faint black smoke, as if something inside her was burning. She immediately looked at the Star Abyss Great Venerable and Fang Chen, exclaiming, "You two are on fire too."
What?
Fang Chen quickly looked down at himself. Wasn't it true? Just like the compassionate Mirror Venerable, faint black smoke was seeping from his pores. The Star Abyss Great Venerable's face changed, and he said gravely, "That's right." Before her death, the Immaculate Great Venerable unleashed her second law. May you all be consumed by raging flames. That law was mostly dispersed by the Great Libationer, but a small portion remained, and now it's taking effect. Fortunately, the Star Abyss Great Venerable added, but judging by the situation, it shouldn't be fatal, just uncomfortable for a while. Not long after he finished speaking, the black smoke on the three of them grew denser, and gradually, flickering flames began to appear. By the time they flew down through the gale, force wind region, and returned to the skies of the Central Plains, they had already transformed into 3 blazing human torches. Fang Chen, roasted dizzy by the flames and unable to sustain flight, ultimately transformed into a fireball, plummeting rapidly towards the earth below. The Star Abyss Great Venerable and the compassionate Mirror Venerable were no better off, each turning into fireballs and hurtling towards different directions. At this moment, the Central Plains powerhouses who had rushed to aid them watched the 3 fireballs diving steeply across the horizon and immediately set off in pursuit. However, the fireballs were too fast, they couldn't catch up in a short time. In a remote courtyard within the Sea of Text's Academy, the True Words Venerable stared at the projection, showing the fireball belonging to Fang Chen, gritting her silver teeth in annoyance. "You little scoundrel, I should have guessed it was you." Her delicate fists clenched tightly, her chest heaving with anger. No wonder the various techniques of Wang Chengxi always felt strangely similar to Fang Chen's. So it was Fang Chen himself all along. Remembering how this scoundrel had barged in on her naked in the treasury, her fists clenched even tighter as she muttered resentfully, "Fine. Your little life, not even the Heavenly King himself will be able to save it." Even as she said this, when she saw in the projection how Fang Chen successfully moved the heaven, connecting Black Pillar and resolved the crisis, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Being seen naked by Wang Chengxi was like a thorn in her heart, causing her great distress. But once she learned that person was actually Fang Chen, that distress inexplicably faded. Since Fang Chen had already seen her before, being seen once more, well, it didn't really count as being seen by an outsider. Watching the fireball in the projection draw ever closer, she bit her lip lightly and cursed under her breath. I hope no one catches you, you little rogue. Crash and burn, backslash. Time passed, bit by bit. The fireball kept falling, with no one managing to catch up from behind. The true words Venerable couldn't help but gloat with a laugh. Haha, little scoundrel, it seems no one can catch you after all. I wonder which unlucky place you'll crash into. Backslash. Her eyes shifted mischievously as she added maliciously, best if you fall into a cesspit, so you'll stink for all eternity. Backslash. Suddenly she let out a soft exclamation, sensing something amiss. This direction. Why is it heading straight for the Sea of Text's Academy? Backslash. At this moment, even without relying on the projection, she could clearly see by looking up. In the heavens, a blazing fireball trailing flames was plummeting directly towards the Sea of Text's Academy. The true words Venerable was momentarily stunned, then a hint of schadenfreude appeared. Good. Smash this Sea of Text's Academy to pieces. Let that old geezer have a good heartache. Backslash. But then she frowned again, murmuring, I just wonder if it might hit someone. Backslash. With such terrifying impact force, even ordinary nascent soul realm cultivators would find it hard to withstand. If it truly struck, death or grievous injury was all but certain. It shouldn't, right? She consoled herself. Everyone has eyes. Seeing a fireball hurtling down, wouldn't they dodge? Unless it was some poor soul who simply couldn't avoid it. Muttering under her breath, Zhenyan Zunji suddenly sensed something amiss. The fireball's descent path seemed to be growing increasingly precise. Why does it feel like it's coming for me? Her heart lurched, disbelief washing over her. No way. What are the odds of such a coincidence in this world? Yet as the fireball drew nearer, its trajectory remained unerring, aimed directly at the courtyard where she stood. She tentatively retreated several steps backward and to the side. The fireball in the sky adjusted its course ever so slightly, remaining locked onto her position. Zhenyan Zunji panicked instantly. Why are you coming at me? The Hunyuan continent is vast. Is there truly no other place for you to land? Such a violent impact, while perhaps not fatal, would be anything but pleasant to endure head on. Watching the colossal fireball, wreathed in roaring flames and deafening thunder, draw inexorably closer, she attempted to dash from the courtyard to evade it. Yet the surroundings were already sealed by the barriers Xing Yuan Dazan had laid down. Escape was impossible. Zhenyan Zunji frantically pounded on the barrier, shrieking, let me out this instant. Her figure flickered repeatedly as she darted left and right within the courtyard. Yet no matter how she twisted and turned, she could not escape this confined space. She could only watch helplessly as that massive fireball, radiating an aura of utter annihilation, crashed directly toward her. Fang Chen, you bastard. Her pained cry was instantly drowned out by the terrifying explosion of a celestial collision. Even with Xingyuan Dazan's barrier mitigating the impact, the remote courtyard was still blasted into a charred, gaping crater, flames roiling and black smoke billowing skyward. As the flames gradually died down and the thick smoke partially cleared, at the center of the scorched pit lay two bodies, pressed tightly together and utterly devoid of clothing. Fang Chen was behind, his arms wrapped tightly around Zhenyan Zunji. The tremendous impact and intense heat had completely incinerated their garments, revealing pale, unblemished skin. Ouch. Zhenyan Zunji was dazed from the impact, her chest churning with chaotic chi and blood, every bone in her body aching as if shattered. But that was not the worst of it. She suddenly felt an odd sensation and a slight pain on her chest. Looking down, Fang Chen's large hand was firmly gripping the two soft mounds on her chest. Zhenyan Zunji snapped to full consciousness in an instant, letting out a scream of utter frenzy. Fang Chen, dazed and groggy from the fall, was jolted awake by the shriek. What's wrong? He mumbled. Opening his eyes, the first thing he saw was a smooth, jade-like expanse of fair skin, a beautiful back, and a stunning face that whipped around, eyes blazing with towering fury. Fang Chen blinked, not fully awake yet. Zhenyan Zunji, how did I get here? He subconsciously squeezed the full, soft sensation in his hand, then jolted, finally realizing what he was holding. Terrified, he yanked his hand back, hastily explaining, I didn't mean to. Without a word, Zhenyan Zunji raised her hand, coalesced a sphere of spiritual light, and slapped it onto Fang Chen's forehead, temporarily sealing the heavenly eye crystal. Immediately after, her fingers curled into a claw as she viciously struck backward toward Fang Chen's lower body, her face icy, teeth gritted. You're dead. You're truly dead this time. I will definitely cut it off. The claw struck empty air. Fang Chen had already employed spatial arts, teleporting several zhang away. Fumbling to pull clothes from his storage treasure and dress himself, he urgently pleaded, a misunderstanding, a complete accident. Don't you dare run! Zhenyan Zanji scrambled to her feet to give chase, but a sudden chill made her realize she was still stark naked. Just as she considered charging forward regardless, the sound of rushing air came from all around clearly. The earlier commotion had attracted many. Zhenyan Zanji could only shoot Fang Chen a venomous glare before gritting her teeth, retreating into the building to hastily don her garments. By the time she was properly dressed and rushed back out, the courtyard was utterly empty, with no trace of Fang Chen to be found. Fang Chen. Zhenyan Zanji's frenzied scream echoed through the courtyard. She leaped into the air, soaring above the collapsed walls to survey the surroundings from on high. If she didn't cut off that scourge Fang Chen, her virtue would surely be ruined by that bastard sooner or later. As for Fang Chen at this moment, he had already performed several consecutive spatial teleports, slipping into an unoccupied grand hall. He quickly dressed, recalling the earlier scene, and couldn't help muttering to himself, "We've already slept together. What's the big deal about a hug? Such an overreaction." Outside the hall, faint whispers of suppressed discussion from powerful figures drifted in. That female Zanji was confined deep within the sea of Text's academy. Her status must be extraordinary. I recall, Xingyuan Dazun seems to have a daughter who ran away from home many years ago.
Could it be her?
Wang Chengxiao, no, Fang Chen actually, slept with her. What's so surprising about that? The whispers fell silent for a moment. Indeed. Having witnessed Fang Chen's various earth-shattering exploits in the heavenly realm, and within the heaven, connecting Black Pillar, a world-shaking event like sleeping with Xingyuan Dazun's daughter, happening to Fang Chen actually felt utterly unsurprising. It even evoked a sense of this is nothing for him, as if it were only natural. If rumors one day spread that Fang Chen had slept with some female Dazun in the 5 decays of heaven and man, they probably wouldn't find it too strange either. He seems to have forgotten the heavenly eye crystal is still embedded in his forehead. He must have been through too many dangers recently, a momentary lapse. Let's not remind him. Let's see what even more outrageous things he can do when he returns. Inside the grand hall, now properly dressed, Fang Chen reflected on the past few days' encounters and couldn't help but click his tongue. First Zhenyan Zanji, then Lion Jing Zanji, and above hangs the mother of that brat, Qianjiao Zanji. This Hunyuan continent is truly a land of great peril. He resolved, I must quickly find Qianjiao Zanji to settle accounts, obtain the wish paper, and flee immediately. At that very moment, a flurry of panicked sounds arose from outside the hall. A young maid's voice, choked with tears, pleaded, "Young master, please don't run about. It's chaotic and dangerous outside right now." A tyrannical child's voice immediately cut her off. "What's wrong with me strolling around my own home? Who do you think you are, daring to control me? I'll whip you to death." Asterisk whack, 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 asterisk. Several crisp sounds of a whip striking flesh rang out, mingled with the maid's pained grunts. Hearing this, Fang Chen's temper flared instantly. It was that detestable brat again. He truly couldn't comprehend how Xingyuan Dazun, a Confucian Dazun of such profound righteousness, elegance, and restraint, could have raised such a wicked and unruly son. He immediately pushed open the hall doors. He saw a young maid of 15 or 16 cowering in a corner, hugging her head, trembling as she endured the brat's whipping with a tree branch. Fury blazed in Fang Chen's eyes as he fought the urge to stride over and slap the child. Scanning the surroundings and seeing no one else, he lowered his voice and called out, "Hey." The brat turned at the sound, and upon seeing Fang Chen, his eyes lit up. He dropped the branch and ran over. "Uncle, when did you get back?" He leaned close to Fang Chen, eagerly whispering, "Give me that little hammer. My mother isn't around right now." Fang Chen reached out and ruffled his hair, producing the array-breaking hammer. "Uncle still doesn't know your name." The brat's eyes were glued to the hammer, drool almost dripping. "I'm Xing Xing." Fang Chen thought to himself, well, the name certainly fits. He hefted the hammer. "Xing Xing, Uncle can give you this hammer, but you have to promise to take me to see your mother, okay?" If he gave the hammer to this brat, he was bound to cause major trouble. Fang Chen needed to find Qianjiao Zanji, get the wish paper, and make his escape before the brat stirred up disaster. Xing Xing nodded eagerly. Okay, I'll take you to find my mother right now." Fang Chen smiled and placed the array-breaking hammer into his hands. Woo-hoo, finally, a new toy. Xing Xing jumped for joy, wildly waving the hammer, his little face brimming with excitement. "I have so many places I want to smash." Fang Chen gently guided him. Just take uncle to your mother first. After that, you can smash wherever you want. Xing eagerly toddled off in a certain direction. Follow me, uncle. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Great Venerable Xing Yuan slowly rose from a sea of scorched ruins. His treasure robes shimmered with flowing light, sparing him the fate of Fang Chen, who had been burned stark naked. At least, he maintained some dignity before the watching crowd. Dean, are you all right? A group of powerful experts from the Sea of Texts Academy quickly gathered around him, their voices filled with concern. Great Venerable Xing Yuan straightened his slightly disheveled attire, cleared his throat lightly, and said with an air of nonchalance, "It is nothing." His gaze swept over the crowd as he asked, seemingly offhandedly, "This journey to the celestial realm, what is the outside world's assessment? Fairly objective, I hope." Upon hearing this, the venerables who had rushed over exchanged awkward glances, their faces all wearing sheepish expressions. For a moment, no one dared to speak. Seeing this, Great Venerable Xing Yuan's heart sank slightly, though his expression remained unchanged. He pressed on with a hint of awkwardness. What is the public opinion unfavorable? This was, in truth, within his expectations. This operation had indeed been a trap, one that nearly dragged his companions down with him. It would be strange indeed if the reviews were positive. Venerable Zai Zio, who had come to greet him and had secretly inquired about the various discussions beforehand, could only steel himself and speak up sheepishly. That's not entirely the case. He chose his words carefully. Dean, you plunged into immense peril yet still sacrificed yourself for others. Such noble bearing is still quite admired by some. Great Venerable Xing Yuan's anxious heart settled a little. It seemed his last-ditch effort to turn the tide had salvaged some of the terrible reputation. A flicker of anticipation appeared in his eyes. So, the assessment is acceptable. Perhaps I've even gained a few devotees. Venerable Zai Zio's expression grew even more peculiar. He stammered, "That also hasn't been heard of." Chem. Great Venerable Xing Yuan frowned slightly. It wasn't that the public opinion was good, nor was it bad. Then what exactly was the verdict? Venerable Zai Zio's gaze shifted, not daring to meet Great Venerable Xing Yuan's eyes. At that very moment, a group of powerful experts from other sects arrived one after another, stepping forward to pay their respects. A woman of elegant bearing, dressed in a plain wide dress, stepped out from the crowd. She bowed gracefully. King Yin of the Deer Song Herb Hall greets Dean Xing Yuan. Great Venerable Xing Yuan flew out of the meteor crater and cleared his throat. Great Venerable Xing Yuan cleared his throat and said, "Thank you for your concern, Venerable King Yin. I am unharmed." Venerable King Yin looked around. Venerable King Yin didn't look at him. Instead, she scanned the surroundings and asked, "Dean, where is Wang Chengxiao? Is he injured? Is there any way we can assist?" Great Venerable Xing Yuan was stunned. Great Venerable Xing Yuan was taken aback. "Wait, I'm standing right in front of you. I was beaten half to death by Great Venerable Wu Gu and the Five-Star Giant King in a brutal tag-team assault, and you're not concerned about me, but about Fang Chen. What a tactless Venerable King Yin. She is forbidden from ever setting foot in my Sea of Texts Academy again." At that moment, another Venerable stepped forward. Venerable Xing Lu from the 10,000 Scrolls Library stepped forward, cupping his hands. Xing Lu of the 10,000 Scrolls Library greets Dean Xing Yuan. "Dean, how are your injuries?" Great Venerable Xing Yuan felt a surge of relief. Great Venerable Xing Yuan was immensely gratified. See how much more considerate the Venerable from the 10,000 Scrolls Library is. At least he knows to show some concern for this Great Venerable. Unlike Venerable King Yin, he was just about to speak. Great Venerable Xing Yuan said, "Thank you for your concern." Venerable Xing Lu interrupted him. Venerable Xing Lu didn't let him finish. He looked around eagerly and said, "That's good. Dean, where is Wang Chengxiao?" "The disciples of my 10,000 Scrolls Library all asked me to come and inquire after him." Great Venerable Xing Yuan's eyes widened. Great Venerable Xing Yuan's eyes widened. He was left speechless, choking on his words. Then Venerables came forward, one after another. One after another, more Venerables stepped forward to pay their respects. But without exception, after a brief exchange of pleasantries, their first question was about Wang Chengxiao. Not a single one showed any concern for him. The crowd began to argue. One Venerable said, "Our teacher wishes to invite Wang Chengxiao to our institute to give lectures and impart the Tao. Where is he?" Another immediately retorted, "What does your teacher matter? Our patriarch is already on his way, determined to invite Wang Chengxiao to grace our institute. Yet another interjected, "Stop arguing. Wang Chengxiao is already a guest of honor at our Horizon's Edge Academy. Don't even think of competing with us." Outrageous. By what right does your Horizon's Edge Academy monopolize Wang Chengxiao? Not convinced? Then let's settle this with words. So be it. I curse the Venerable from Horizon's Edge Academy to have foul breath. You insolent whelp. I curse your manhood to shrink by half. Ah, how vicious. I curse your chest to swell like melons. Great Venerable Xing Yuan watched the chaotic scene before him. Great Venerable Xing Yuan watched as the group of venerables before him came to blows over the right to Fang Chen. He, this old man, was tossed aside, completely ignored. A wave of bitter disappointment washed over his heart. No wonder Venerable Zai Zio had been so evasive, saying the outsider's assessment of him was neither good nor bad. It was because no one was even looking at him. All the limelight had been stolen by that brat Fang Chen. Venerable Zai Zio approached sheepishly. Venerable Zai Zio said awkwardly, "Dean, are you all right?" Great Venerable Xing Yuan rubbed his chest. Great Venerable Xing Yuan rubbed his chest. His heart felt icy cold. Being beaten half to death by the combined forces of Great Venerable Wugu and the 5-star Giant King hadn't made his heart ache. But now it did. He tried to calm himself. Great Venerable Xing Yuan flicked his sleeves, forcing himself to remain calm, and asked, "I am fine. What about that brat?" Venerable Zai Zio's expression stiffened slightly. Venerable Zai Zio's expression stiffened slightly. He landed safely. Great Venerable Xing Yuan nodded slightly. Great Venerable Xing Yuan gave a slight nod. That is good. If anything had happened to him, the Grand Lebator of Taking Prefecture would probably come charging over with his blade. Where did he land? Venerable Zai Zio rubbed his nose. Venerable Zai Zio rubbed his nose, his expression unnatural. The heart-nurturing courtyard. Great Venerable Xing Yuan was shocked. Great Venerable Xing Yuan exclaimed, "Huh, isn't that where Venerable Zhenyan is sealed? Is everyone inside all right?" Venerable Zai Zio coughed dryly. Venerable Zai Zio didn't dare meet his eyes. He coughed dryly and said, They're fine. They're more or less unharmed, just suffered a bit of a loss." When Wang Chengxiao descended with the fireball, somehow he ended up embracing her. The two were burned naked and clung together. It was rather indecent. He added cautiously, "I heard it said that she is the Dean's daughter." Great Venerable Xing Yuan flew into a rage. Great Venerable Xing Yuan was so angry, his beard seemed to bristle. He roared, "What, embraced, stark naked, that damned brat? Does he dare swear he wasn't deliberately taking advantage of my daughter? Where is he now?" Venerable Zai Zio responded with a dry cough. Venerable Zai Zio coughed dryly. It seems he went to find the madam to collect the reward for this journey. He appears to have forgotten about the celestial eye crystal still on his forehead. Shall we summon him and remind him to remove it? Great Venerable Xing Yuan snorted coldly. Great Venerable Xing Yuan snorted, "Leave him be for now. We will discuss rewards for merits later. First, I must deal with this object." He took out a jade box. He retrieved a jade box from his sleeve, its surface sealed with several layers of talismans. Even so, a powerful aura of negative emotions seeped out from within, causing intense discomfort. And within the jade box was merely a single drop of blood. This was the blood from the primordial celestial pit. He explained the reason. The 5-star Giant King sought to transform him directly with its blood, unleashing over 100 crimson droplets. He secretly collected one droplet. If by some miracle he managed to escape back to the Central Lands, he would study it thoroughly, hoping to find a countermeasure beyond the sage's crystalline shedding. He gave instructions to the Zixiao Venerable. Venerable Xing Yuan declared, "This is the blood from the ancient heavenly pit blood pool discovered by Fang Chen in the Taking Great Province. Take it to the square before the Academy's main gate and present it for observation by disciples from all visiting sects. Let us pool our collective wisdom to see if anyone can devise a method to break its power." The Zixiao Venerable carefully received it. The Zixiao Venerable accepted it with utmost care, replying, "As you command, Headmaster." Venerable Xing Yuan added a warning. Venerable Xing Yuan cautioned further, "Be vigilant. Do not allow anyone to approach. A single drop of this blood is beyond the resistance of any beneath the venerable realm. It carries the grave risk of transforming them into an ancient giant." The Zixiao Venerable responded with solemn gravity. The Zixiao Venerable responded with solemn gravity. Understood. Having dealt with this matter, having concluded this affair, he turned to another Venerable of the Academy and inquired, "Where is Venerable Lion Jing?" The Venerable reported. That Venerable reported, "Headmaster, Venerable Lion Jing has been rescued, but remains unconscious." Venerable Xing Yuan's brow furrowed slightly. Venerable Xing Yuan's brow furrowed slightly. "Let us go see her. In the end, she bore the brunt of the sage laws, more than even Wang Cheng, Xiao, or myself." Scene shift. Meanwhile, elsewhere. Before a bedchamber, surrounded by a garden of bewitchingly vibrant flowers. Xing Xing led the way. Xing Xing said, "My mother is inside." Fang Chen observed the garden. Fang Chen gazed at the garden overflowing with blossoms, secretly astonished. All of this was the work of formation arrays. He was just about to raise his voice to announce his presence to Venerable Jiao. Xing Xing strode directly in. But Xing Xing strode directly into the garden, saying, "Come on, uncle. Just follow me, and you'll get inside." Fang Chen followed. Very well, having her son lead the way was even better. Shouting from outside would have been somewhat impolite. Following in Xing Xing's footsteps, he traversed the garden safely, not triggering a single formation. He successfully arrived before the bedchamber. Xing Xing ran off. Xing Xing, hugging her hammer, scampered away, leaving Fang Chen alone. "All right, uncle, I'm off to play. You can chat with my mother by yourself." Fang Chen grimaced. Fang Chen grimaced. He needed to get the wish papers and make a swift exit. His intuition screamed that, at most within the time it took to drink a cup of tea, that little troublemaker would cause a major catastrophe. He stepped forward, intending to knock. He stepped forward, hand raised to knock on the door. But then he suddenly heard a man's voice from within. Fang Chen was stunned. Fang Chen was stunned. This was Venerable Jiao's private bedchamber. How could there be a man inside? Venerable Xing Yuan had faced death 9 times over in the heavenly realm, and here his wife was, dallying with the man in her chambers. By the heavens! Was this something he was supposed to know? He had to leave and fast, otherwise he might end up silenced for good. He was just about to leave. But just as he prepared to flee, the voices inside the chamber abruptly ceased. Then, with a soft creak, the palace doors behind him slowly began to open. Venerable Jiao's voice sounded. A voice tinged with a hint of chilliness whispered by his ear, "How much did you hear?" Fang Chen inwardly lamented. He truly did not want to know about this wretched affair. It was all that damned child Xing Xing's fault. How could she bring him here when her own mother was having a secret rendezvous with another man? He composed himself and turned. Composing himself, he turned around, wearing a look of confusion. "Senior Jiao, I just arrived. Were you discussing important matters with a guest? Then I heard nothing at all." Venerable Jiao was suspicious. Venerable Jiao eyed Fang Chen suspiciously, an unfathomable light flickering in her gaze, her voice slightly cold. "How did you pass through the garden?" She swept a glance over the garden, noting the undisturbed formations, her suspicion deepening. Fang Chen hurriedly explained. Fang Chen hurriedly said, "Xing Xing brought me here." Venerable Jiao gritted her teeth. Upon learning it was him, Venerable Jiao gritted her teeth and snorted, "That wretched child." Then she fixed her gaze on Fang Chen, her eyes flickering with uncertain, shifting emotions. Fang Chen's hair stood on end. The hairs on Fang Chen's neck stood on end. Venerable Jiao was a powerhouse at the second heavenly tribulation of the human immortal realm. If she decided to attack him, escape would be no easy feat. He quickly steadied himself and spoke. He quickly steadied himself and said, "Senior Jiao, Venerable Xing Yuan and I have returned safely. I request the fulfillment of our agreement, the 3 wish papers." He deliberately mentioned Venerable Xing Yuan's name, hoping to instill some caution in Venerable Jiao and prevent her from acting recklessly. If a conflict erupted and drew Venerable Xing Yuan's attention, Venerable Jiao would be in deep trouble. Venerable Jiao glanced into the distance. Venerable Jiao glanced into the distance, sensing Venerable Xing Yuan's presence. Only after staring at Fang Chen for several breaths did she retrieve 3 wish papers from her sleeve, saying with profound meaning, "When gossip comes to your ears, not listening makes it naturally vanish, young man. The road ahead is long. Prudence in speech and action is the path to longevity." She handed the 3 wish papers to Fang Chen. Fang Chen received them respectfully. Fang Chen received them respectfully with both hands. Thank you for your guidance, senior. The phrase when gossip comes to your ears, not listening makes it naturally vanish meant that by not hearing such matters, trouble would naturally avoid you. It was undoubtedly a warning for Fang Chen to keep his mouth shut, to avoid idle talk, lest he bring disaster upon himself. This allowed Fang Chen to secretly breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed Venerable Qianjiao also did not wish for the matter to escalate. A single warning, and the affair would be laid to rest. He stored the wish papers and took his leave. He stored the wish papers safely and said, "This junior takes his leave." The onlookers were dumbfounded. The powerful experts from the various sects of the Hunyuan province were utterly bewildered by what they witnessed. They stood there, mouths agape, not daring to breathe too loudly. What explosive news have I just heard? Venerable Xing Yuan's domestic affairs. Are these for my ears? This is too shocking. Venerable Xing Yuan's wife is actually betraying him with another man. Thankfully, Wang Qingxiao was clever enough to play the fool and muddle through. Otherwise, he would have certainly been silenced. Just as they were feeling relieved for him. Just as they were secretly feeling relieved for Fang Chen. Within the projection, Venerable Qianjiao nodded, then called him back. Venerable Qianjiao gave a slight nod. You may go. The words were still on her lips when she suddenly remembered something, her gaze sharpening once more. Wait, there is one more matter I nearly forgot to ask you. Fang Chen's heart skipped a beat. Fang Chen's heart gave a sudden thump. Will this never end? He won't go telling tales. If he meddled in other people's family affairs, he'd be damned if he did and damned if he didn't. He'd find no favor with either side. The venerated Thousand Beauties stared at him and asked. However, the venerated Thousand Beauties was not inquiring about the matter in the room. Instead, she fixed her gaze on Fang Chen's face and demanded, "Are you truly called Fang Chen, or are you Wang Qingxiao?" Fang Chen was taken aback. Fang Chen was stunned. He hadn't expected the question to be about this. After the incident where he moved the heaven, connecting Black Pillar, his true identity had become exceedingly difficult to conceal. After all, there was only one person in the Central Plains capable of moving the heaven, connecting Black Pillar. That person was Fang Chen. So that's what this is about. He sighed in relief and removed it. Fang Chen let out a sigh of relief, removed the mask from his face, and declared, "I am Fang Chen, the Chief Deputy Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion from the Great Province of Taking." The crowd was enlightened. The powerful cultivators from the various sects of the Primordial Chaos Province watched in bewilderment. So his real name really is Fang Chen. The powerful cultivators of the Primordial Chaos Province broke into animated discussion, their voices a clamorous din. Powerful cultivator exclaimed with sudden realization, "I found it strange that the great province of Taking could produce two heaven-defying prodigies like Fang Chen and Hung Xiao simultaneously, so they were both Fang Chen." Powerful cultivator be questioned in confusion when he impersonated Wang Qingxiao, pounding his chest and uttering all those self-sacrificing words. Was that all a lie? The venerated Thousand Beauties' gaze was sharp as a torch, fixed intently on Fang Chen as she demanded in a low voice, "Why did you impersonate Wang Qingxiao?" Knowing his identity was exposed, Fang Chen had long prepared an explanation. He let out a long sigh and spoke candidly, "Very well, I shall tell you the truth. In fact, there is no such person in this world as Wang Qingxiao." A faint ripple of astonishment spread through the surroundings. The powerful cultivators of the Primordial Chaos Province all pricked up their ears. The venerated Thousand Beauties continued to stare at him, silently waiting for him to continue. Fang Chen explained helplessly, "Wang Qingxi was merely an alias I used while traveling the celestial realm. My strength is meager, and my sect is weak and impoverished. I simply could not afford to provoke the ancient giants. Therefore, I had no choice but to use the alias Wang Qingxi to contend with and oppose them. For this matter, I beg the venerated Thousand Beauties' understanding." Upon hearing this, the crowd first fell into silence, then erupted with exclamations of emotion. Powerful cultivator C exclaimed with feeling, a youth of humble origins, concealing his name to protect the Central Plains. Powerful cultivator D said with shame, "And we, disciples of renowned and mighty sects, remained indifferent to it all." Powerful cultivator E declared passionately, "Spread the word. From now on, when the people of the Deer Cry Grass Hall engage the ancient giants in battle, they shall all call themselves Wang Qingxiao. We shall forge the name Wang Qingxia how into a creed, a belief in resisting the ancient giants. Powerful cultivator F chimed in, exactly. Let the ancient giants know that every one of us in the central plains is an unyielding Wang Chung Xiao. Powerful cultivator G shouted, my 10,000 scrolls study hall shall do the same. On the surface, we are Wang Chung Xiao. At our core, we are all Fang Chen. Do you understand? The crowd responded in unison, understood. Powerful cultivator H summarized, when tricking the ancient giants, we call ourselves Wang Chung Xiao. When others praise us, we say we are merely following in Fang Chen's footsteps. The sounds of discussion gradually subsided. The venerated Thousand Beauties crossed her arms over her chest and began to slowly circle Fang Chen, her eyes scrutinizing him from head to toe. She let out a meaningful O, narrowed her eyes, and said with a half-smile, is that so? Fine, you impersonated Wang Qingxiao, but why did you have to put on a strange mask you picked up on the spot? You never wore a mask when you went to the celestial realm before. Why did you feel the need to wear one specifically in front of me? Her gaze suddenly turned razor, sharp as she accused. You weren't guarding against the ancient giants. You were guarding against me, weren't you? You're the despicable scoundrel who encouraged my son to spit on the street. Fang Chen's face stiffened. He cleared his throat twice and defended himself. Senior, you misunderstand. How could I possibly do such a thing? The venerated Thousand Beauties roared in anger. Stop pretending. It was you bastard. How dare you trick my son? I'm not finished with you. Fang Chen's heart tightened. Fang Chen felt his scalp go numb. He had witnessed this woman's ferocity when protecting her cub. If he fell into her hands, the consequences would be unthinkable. His thoughts raced like lightning, and he decisively activated spatial teleportation. Asterisk whoosh, asterisk. Just as spatial energy began to ripple around him, all the flowers in the garden suddenly exploded, transforming into several sturdy chains of petals that bound him tightly. The venerated Thousand Beauties' face was cold as ice as she stated frostily, bully anyone else you like, but bully my son, not a chance. She raised her hand, radiant light coalescing in her palm, ready to teach Fang Chen a lesson. Fang Chen's heart jolted, and he hurriedly tried to retrieve the wish paper. Yet another petal chain shot forth like lightning, snatching the wish paper from his hand and flying into the venerated Thousand Beauties' grasp. Holding the wish paper, the venerated Thousand Beauties sneered. You thought you could use my own artifact against me. Fang Chen's expression shifted, and he said solemnly, Venerated Thousand Beauties, I am, after all, the one who saved your husband. Must you be so unreasonable? The venerated Thousand Beauties snorted, That's a separate matter. He will repay your life, saving grace himself. But for harming my son, I demand an explanation. Fang Chen found this utterly unreasonable. Was it really worth all this? This overprotectiveness was simply absurd. Seeing that the venerated Thousand Beauties was truly about to strike, Fang Chen's expression darkened. So be it. If a fight is what she wants, then a fight she shall have. With the sage's inscription upon his body, she likely couldn't do much to him anyway. Asterisk roar, asterisk. At that very moment, a deafening roar erupted from the direction of the entrance to the Sea of Texts Academy. A savage, violent aura surged forth like a tidal wave. Both Fang Chen and the venerated Thousand Beauties froze simultaneously. That roar and that aura were all too familiar to Fang Chen. It was an ancient giant. But how could there be an ancient giant in the Central Plains? The venerated Thousand Beauties was also startled, asking with shock and doubt, that roar. A figure flashed over at extreme speed. The venerated Purple Firmness arrived in a hurry, his face etched with anxiety. In his grasp was a thrige, yanked, all small giant who was struggling and roaring wildly. He urgently reported, Madame, it's terrible, the young master. In his mischief, he shattered the seal on the ancient abyss blood drop, and has transformed into an ancient giant. The venerated Thousand Beauties was as if struck by lightning. The venerated Thousand Beauties let out a cry of alarm. Immediately abandoning Fang Chen, she rushed forward, her voice trembling as she called out, Xingxing, Xingxing. At this moment, Xingxing had been transformed into an ancient giant, becoming an amalgamation of frenzy, bloodlust, and rage. Coupled with the recent transformation, his intellect was nearly bestial. How could he possibly recognize his mother? His arms flailed wildly, his sharp claws even tearing the venerated Thousand Beauties' robes. The venerated Thousand Beauties was utterly distraught, panicking as she cried, It's mother, it's mother. She felt as if the heavens had collapsed and the earth had split open, completely at a loss for what to do. The venerated Purple Firmness hurriedly advised, Madame, don't panic just yet. Back in the Black Sun Royal Court, young Master Fang Chen once reverted a transformed Threes-Star Giant King back into the Crown Asura King. Quickly go and request his presence. See if he still has a method to restore the young master. The venerated Thousand Beauties whirled her head around to look at Fang Chen. Fang Chen. The venerated Thousand Beauties suddenly remembered, among the projections transmitted from the great province of Taking, there was indeed such a scene. A transformed ancient giant actually had a chance to be reverted. The venerated Purple Firmness urged, Madame, quickly mobilize your people to find Fang Chen. The venerated Purple Firmness was inwardly frantic with anxiety. His heart burned with impatience. While publicly displaying the blood drop at the academy entrance, the academy head's mischievous child had come over to play. Although he knew the child was naughty, the blood drop was sealed, and he had personally set up an additional isolation array, so he didn't pay it much mind, turning instead to discuss matters with a fellow venerated one nearby. Who could have known that the child would find a powerful hammer specifically designed to counter arrays from somewhere? With a single strike, he shattered the array, and along with it, the seal. The blood drop splattered, landing precisely on the child. As a result, he transformed into a small giant right before everyone's eyes. This was the academy head's only son, the very apple of the academy head's wife's eye, for this to happen under his watch. Even if he were to atone with his death, it might not be enough to quell the academy head's wife's wrath. Now their only hope rested on Fang Chen. He was the only one who had successfully reversed a transformation. It was just unknown where he had fled to, being pursued by the venerated True Words. A calm voice sounded from the side. Fang Chen said evenly, no need to search, I am right here. Hearing the voice, the venerated Purple Firmness was taken aback. He turned his head to look and was greatly astonished. He saw several chains formed from flower petals, wrapped layer upon layer, binding a youth so tightly that only a handsome, pale face was visible. He recognized this face. Venerable Zai hurried forward, intending to tear apart the petal chains. How were you trapped? Fang Chen, however, stopped him. Don't. Venerable Jiao insists on teaching me a lesson first. Please don't interrupt. You must let her finish her scolding. An awkward silence descended. Venerable Jiao froze in place. The very person she had been madly determined to punish was the one who could save her son. Listening to the little giant's incessant roars, her heart felt as if slashed by a blade. She hastily stepped forward herself, undoing the petal chains, her eyes brimming with desperate hope. Young Master Fang, she pleaded, can you save my son? Fang Chen flexed his wrist calmly. I can, but I don't want to. Venerable Jiao's initial joy turned to anxious dismay upon hearing his latter words. She hurriedly placed the 3 wish papers back into Fang Chen's palm, her tone nearly begging. Please, young Master Fang, save my son. Fang Chen retrieved the wish papers, stowing them in his spatial storage artifact, and retorted, aren't you going to continue teaching me a lesson? Venerable Jiao gritted her silver teeth. Asterisk, you little brat, still mocking me at a time like this. Asterisk. But with her son's life hanging in the balance, she had no choice but to swallow her pride. She turned to Venerable Zai and instructed, Venerable Zai, please leave us. I will handle this matter. With that, she gestured casually, and the petal chains gently coiled around the agitated little giant, restraining him. Venerable Zai understood. Venerable Jiao intended to apologize to Fang Chen in private. Such a face, losing a fair, was naturally not something she wanted witnessed. Learning that Fang Chen could save Xingxing, the great weight on his heart lifted considerably. He readily agreed, very well, madame. Notify me at once if you require anything. So saying, he vanished in a flash. After Venerable Zai departed, he suddenly remembered something. He smacked his forehead. I nearly forgot to tell madame. Fang Chen's heavenly eye, crystal on his forehead, hasn't been deactivated yet. Every martial artist in the entire Hunyuan province is probably watching right now. He was about to turn back and inform her when, glancing over his shoulder, he saw Venerable Jiao had already ushered Fang Chen into a resting chamber beside her bedchamber. It was too late to warn them. A trace of concern flickered across Venerable Zai's face. This won't cause problems, will it? But it's just an apology. What could possibly go wrong? What am I even worried about? He shook his head, turned, and left to seek out the academy head. Scene change. Within a secluded courtyard villa, Great Venerable Xing Yuan was examining Venerable Lion Jing's injuries. The female disciple attending them wore a puzzled expression. Academy head, why is Venerable Lion Jing still unconscious? An impact of that level shouldn't have rendered her comatose, should it? Even Fang Chen had only briefly fainted before quickly regaining consciousness. It made no sense for a true word, venerable, to be injured so gravely. Great Venerable Xing Yuan's expression was grave as he gazed at the halo behind Venerable Lion Jing's head, now riddled with cracks. A faint, almost imperceptible scent of decay emanated from the fractures in the divine halo. Great Venerable Xing Yuan stated solemnly, "Her divine halo is decaying. The tribulation of the 5 decays of heaven and man has descended upon her prematurely. Given the state of her shattered domain, I fear she will not survive it." What plunged her into this deep coma was not the physical impact, but the withering power of this heavenly decay. Great Venerable Xing Yuan sighed. Who knows what she endured before this, to have her domain damaged to such an extent. Originally, the decay tribulation was still days from erupting. She had some time to prepare. But enduring the impact of Sage's law twice in succession has triggered it completely and prematurely. He rose and instructed the female disciple, notify the young Emperor's Mountain in Tian Province, request that they send someone to retrieve her. To save Venerable Lion Jing, only 2 paths remained. First, repair her shattered domain, causing the decay to recede. Second, have a supreme powerhouse shelter her, forcibly aid in her through the tribulation. Now, with Great Venerable Xing Yuan's righteous Kai depleted by more than half, his strength fell short of his will. He could only hope that the legendary young emperor could turn the tide and save his own mother. A figure flashed into the courtyard at high speed. Venerable Zai Zio materialized within the courtyard, his face etched with urgency. Academy head, Qing Xing is in grave danger. Great Venerable Xing Yuan's expression darkened, his voice cold. Did I not instruct you to safeguard that blood with utmost care? How could you allow a mere child to come into contact with it? Venerable Zai Zio wore a look of grievance as he explained in a low voice, Great Venerable, please hear me. The child did not act intentionally. I had placed the blood vial upon the jade table in the meditation chamber and stepped out briefly to handle an urgent matter. Who could have known the child would wander in, driven by curiosity to touch it, thus triggering the mutation? Upon hearing this, Great Venerable Xing Yuan was so furious his beard seemed to bristle. He slammed his palm onto the stone table beside him.